DarkViperAU.
I could absolutely destroy my Willy.
And WillyMacShow. These two individuals are people I am a little bit acquainted with, more so acquainted with Willy. I have watched a lot of Willy's videos. I would consider him a colleague, a peer, and the two of these guys have kind of been feuding in a sense. Specifically, Dark Viper obviously had his big controversy, I guess you could say, where he took a hard stance against React content.
There's a whole section in here where he basically compares React content creators to
This is on page 8 of 14, and is an offhand remark. In brackets, this is Charlie's attempt to poison the well. Sitting there for 6 months, putting everything meticulously, perfectly, doing all this research, calculations, and most critical work. So I'm gonna put that entire video on my YouTube channel and generate maybe 10 grand. What, the original creator wants money? No.
And among, you know, the plethora of feedback and responses that Dark Viper has gotten to his controversial takes or whatever on the streaming reaction content thing, one person who reacted to his content was a streamer by the name ChudLogic. And ChudLogic, from what I understand, basically kind of just shit on DarkViperAU, more or less.
So I explicitly said to ChudLogic, what you do isn't okay, and I do not give you permission to react to my content. Still then later, he reacts to one of my videos, because he thinks it's gonna be funny. The premise of this video apparently was to answer the question as to whether or not Jack's films. He mentions twice that he knew it was illegal what he was doing and he simply didn't care. He had a personal message from me saying, you should not do this, and he stood it anyway. And so I struck his video.
And that caused a lot of controversy within specifically the commentary community because
a heavily critical reaction video getting struck down because the original content creator didn't like it is a threat to the nature of the commentary community, where the entire point is to criticize and engage in online discussion.
Dark Viper would argue that reacting to his video in full without any of it being like removed, like just kind of straight up reacting, watching it for the first time live, is not transformative. And so that controversy kind of tipped off WillyMac to investigate Dark Viper a little bit, where WillyMac released a big video titled DarkViperAU Won't Stop. From React debates to lolcow.
He ended relationships with friends over this, struck critical reactions of him, and openly abused the DMCA sys dozen or so videos on the topic. And every video is the exact same thing. It's Matt responding to other people's opinion with his opinion, but he presents his opinion as a fact. It's literally just him making semantic argument. He's so unself-aware, he just screams 14 pages over and over again as if that proves his point.
It's 14 pages! 14 pages, 14 pages, painstaking detail.
And so this all strangely kind of culminates in Dark Viper recently making what seems like a stream highlight video talking about how WillyMac is a grifter and a bad force online, basically. In fact, he frames it as an expose. He says, exposing WillyMacShow's unhinged year-long tantrum about me. Part 1. And so it seems like, obviously, there's an implication that there will be more to this feud or whatever. And look, here's the thing, okay, before I get into any of this, Mr. DarkViperAU. Oh, shit. Oh, no. In all seriousness, I would love to interview you, okay? You might not know anything about me, but I would like to think I'm a relatively unbiased observer in this saga, and I do think that there would be value in me having a conversation with you. I would also like to talk to WillyMacShow and see what his raw opinions are on your most recent video about him. So, you know, I'm willing to talk to both sides, maybe even act as a mediator, whatever, but an interesting conversation. That's what I can, you know, offer, basically. Not gonna be bad faith, gonna try to understand your perspective. Also gonna certainly, you know, ask you some genuine questions, right, about this whole circumstance and your positions and all this, right? Like, I'm not gonna be glazing you the whole time, of course, but it seems like you believe that, you know, having a good faith conversation or interview among commentators, that is like a difficult thing to come by. And so that's what I'm offering. Thank you, sir, for your consideration. Now, getting back into the video that he has just released, again, it's a stream highlight where he kind of goes a little bit off the cuff, but there's also some, like, he inserted some clips to kind of add context and stuff like that. And so this is a relatively thought through little sparking of the feud, effectively. And so I will summarize what this is about, and then we'll digest it and unpack it. So pretty much, our boy Dark Viper does not like WillyMac, to put it lightly, okay? In fact, he pretty regularly states that he believes WillyMac is a grifter, that he's a negative force, basically, in this world, that he is obsessed with him, kind of. He implies that WillyMac is obsessed with him. In fact, that's one of the chapter titles. He's my biggest fan. And then I think, again, WillyMac is obsessed with me. And the basis by which he argues this is effectively just that Willy used to like a lot of Dark Viper's tweets, and he like engaged with a lot of Dark Viper's tweets. I believe he said over 50 tweets. And effectively, he now claims that he suddenly doesn't like Dark Viper, and that he basically incessantly will talk about him. And so that obviously is a little bit of cope, right, in a sense, because any person who's subject to criticism can obviously, argue that the people who are trying to hold them to account to the criticism or whatever are obsessed with them, right? I doubt WillyMac is necessarily obsessed, but that's the way that Dark Viper certainly frames it. Back when this Chud Logic copyright strike situation first occurred, DarkViperAU ended up uploading a 45-minute video explaining his logic and how YouTube's copyright blunder sparked a hate campaign against me, okay? And the copyright blunder that he kind of goes into is just simply that YouTube put up resistance themselves to him taking down Chud's video. And so, obviously, on the side of commentators, this is a very hot button topic, right? Because they want to be allowed to talk about whatever they want to talk about in whatever way they want to talk about it, usually, right? And the big criticism that DarkViperAU levies at WillyMac is that WillyMac sided with Chud Logic in this circumstance without having even watched Chud Logic's VOD or video that got claimed, okay?
I'm gay.
Facts. And so I'll play you the clip of him describing this.
In a live stream later, he admitted that he knew nothing about me.
Had to call you about the Viper stuff. I don't get any of this. No, because I don't even know if what you reacted to was fair use. You sent me it, but I haven't seen it yet.
The argument basically that he's making is he leads it into saying there is a cabal of commentators who all coordinate and plan targeted kind of harassment-esque campaigns against innocent creators. He doesn't say it in those literal words, but that's kind of the message he's implying, especially as it relates to himself. But yeah, this, you can determine if this is a sign of bias. I think a little bit, for sure, but let's see.
Might be the first time I'll get a video about me where someone actually reads and watches my work before.
Right, so this is him describing basically that he was hopeful. When WillyMac first said that he was actually going to properly look into this shit, Dark Viper was like, you know what, this WillyMac.
I'm a bad boy.
Any Dark Viper drama makes me sad. He's a very self-admittedly lonely guy who kinda doesn't know how to make or keep friends, so he's always in fight mode. Takes offense very quickly for it and doesn't really have any foresight for his own self-interest.
Okay, so this is kind of the vibe that I get from Dark Viper, all right? Is that there's a little bit of desocialization, maybe, potentially, but certainly that he is a little terminally online.
I'm also gay.
And basically, like, he takes these situations actually very seriously. There was a moment where I thought it was kind of satirical, because I was like, there's no way he's this sincere, you know what I mean? But I actually do think he's very sincere in a lot of these dramas. And yeah, I mean, I don't say that he seems like he's terminally online as a dig. He describes himself that he literally works 24/7 all of his waking moments.
As you probably know, I'm a bit of a workaholic. I am very passionate about what I do, so unless I have a good reason not to, I will spend every waking moment working, as I have done for countless years.
Now, don't feel too bad for him. It does seem like his life is going relatively well. It seems like he's in a, from what I can tell, like a long-term committed relationship right now with someone who makes him happy.
However, this changed at the start of this year when I met someone and fell in love. One huge perk of this is that she is someone who makes traveling incredibly fun.
But even then, he describes basically that a big part of why he loves this person or enjoys hanging out with this person, his partner, right, is because they get to travel the world and they basically turn that into content. They turn it into Instagram content, okay? So even, you know, the side of his life that is offline, he chooses to put online.
The result is that this year I went to far more places and events, often making these trips into content exclusively for Instagram.
Yes, there is a lot going on, I think, psychologically as it relates to Mr. Dark Viper. But yes, he basically kind of calls out Willy for picking a side before having full context. Now, to be fair, commentators are almost always very skeptical about being pro copyright claiming a fucking reaction or any kind of commentary video. So the argument that he makes basically is that Willy was friends with ChudLogic and they had a kind of cabal of all these commentators effectively. And so that was what was blinding his judgment. And maybe that's true. I don't really know WillyMac's association with Chud at all. But, you know, as a general rule, I do think there is kind of a climate of like, commentator's video got copyright struck. I sympathize with that. You know what I mean? And that's kind of beyond just like personal relationships. That is a bit of self-interest, but it's also, I think, kind of fair, because most of the time when someone gets copyright struck, it is in an attempt to evade criticism. Dark Viper's big claim is that he did not copyright strike ChudLogic in an attempt to undermine his criticism. He literally just did it because that's what he always does to reaction content like Chud's, on principle.
On November 10th, 2023, I submitted a takedown notice to YouTube because someone re-uploaded one of my videos. A fairly standard procedure, usually met with no resistance, and something I've done for years. This time though, YouTube wrongly rejected this notice. Some people, particularly stupid people, asserted that I attempted to take down Chud's re-upload because of things he said alongside it. I apparently didn't like that Chud criticized me. Not only did I not know this person at the time, but I gave about as much thought to this strike as a person gives to flicking a fly off their shoulder.
Because DarkViperAU believes it is completely unethical to react in entirety to a video that is not about you.
For example, if you want to react to your own work, or other people's work that you were personally involved in. I am fine with people watching advertisements, and often even live events, assuming you're an official rebroadcaster. As you guys know, I hold the position in regards to React content that if you're reacting to something that you've already seen before and directly involves you, that it's fine to do. Because obviously every bit of the video you have some invested interest in because it's about you, and you are knowledgeable in it because of course you've seen it before, and you're the one being talked about. I'm thinking about...
Right, so that is his take, basically. That it needs to be about you, okay? So of pertinent relevance basically to you, and that you need to have already watched it. So you've already digested it, and therefore I am assuming he means that your kind of interpretation, your fair use commentary, you'll be able to basically, you know, speak on it from a less ignorant perspective.
My only interest was whether or not he re-uploaded my video in full. Obviously, I had better things to do with my time. If while watching my video, he had discovered the cure for cancer and whistled the solution out his ass, I still would have struck him, because, as I've made abundantly clear, I find reaction content grossly immoral and harmful to the ecosystem. This is something I have not kept secret. In fact, I've shouted from the rooftops for half a decade, making any other conclusion as to my possible motivations bewilderingly.
Yeah, that's his take.
I knew he didn't like that I called him out for his previous lies, and so I knew he was going to lie more to defend those lies. But even then, I still didn't understand why it was so false. And the big reason...
Right, so he claims Willy is a liar. Okay.
For this is, he would say false things that benefited him not at all from saying. It's like there was no practical benefit to the false things he was saying, but he was saying them anyway. Because I had the impression that while WillyMac didn't know much about me, I thought he knew at least something. Because for the previous, year and a half, 2 years, he had liked 50 of my tweets, had responded to a dozen of them. Of all the creators that I knew at the time, he had engaged with my Twitter the most, in a positive way. I assumed on that basis that he had at least some like for my content, in the same way that Turkey Tom admitted that he used to like my content quite a bit.
But DarkViperAU is someone with a smaller audience who you may or may not have heard of.
Right, okay, and so he basically points out that when Willy actually calls ChudLogic, he admits two things, basically. He admits that he barely knows anything about Dark Viper, okay? He probably just knew him from Twitter, vaguely. And he admits that he did not watch the video that Dark Viper claimed of ChudLogic's, okay? That's basically what Dark Viper uses to say, look at this fucking guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He picked a side and then he justified it after the fact. He also uses the fact from that conversation with ChudLogic where WillyMac admits to not knowing anything about Dark Viper, or not really knowing what's going on. It took WillyMac 3 weeks approximately to upload a video, calling Dark Viper a lolcow. And so he argues, is 3 weeks really enough to fucking understand my entire career? You know what I mean? And the answer is probably yeah. realistically, but, you know, according to Dark Viper, it's not. So Dark Viper also makes this kind of funny and not really fully backed up claim that WillyMac is a clout chaser, and I'll let him explain his reasoning.
As it turns out, Willy is a person who is a clout chaser in the traditional sense of the word, where it's not just an insult, he actually just follows people that have a lot of viewership and tries to buddy up to them in order to get views.
Okay, and so I'm not sure exactly what basis he has for claiming this. I mean, I'm sure you could probably draw some lines, but he doesn't, right? Chud Logic, from what I'm aware, is a smaller fucking creator than Willy, you know what I mean? So that's not really, like, him jumping to defend Chud Logic doesn't seem necessarily beneficial. He's going to reference Mudahar a lot, so Dark Vibe kind of shames Mudahar a little bit for associating with us deplorables, the commentary community, okay? Yeah, as a basis, I think, for criticism, that's kind of bad.
And so the reason he followed me on Twitter and engaged with my stuff so much was in an attempt to get views from me. When he found...
Right, so yeah, okay, so basically the claim is that Willy, in bad faith, basically approached Dark Viper with the intention of already wanting to leech off of him, okay? And so he does paint WillyMac as a super unnuanced, super fucking bad faith, liar, grifter. Like, it's not a good picture he's painting. And here's the thing, right? I want to just vouch for a moment, okay? Dark Viper, I don't know if you're watching this, but I do want to vouch for WillyMac on a few dimensions, okay? Because I've not watched all of his content, but I've watched a decent amount. And at the very least, okay, because there's a point as well where he undermines whether or not WillyMac is a journalist. He's basically like, no, not at all. It's like, there are videos that WillyMac has made, specifically in relation to Andrew Tate, okay, who I assume you probably don't have a positive opinion of, Mr. Dark Viper. And these videos that Willy has made, a lot of the times, he's doing actually better fucking journalism than the BBC, like, official news outlets. Like, these literal fucking multi-million-dollar, state fucking funded news outlets are behind the YouTubers like WillyMac, okay? There's a lot of things that, you know, with the help of some investigators on Twitter, WillyMac actually really brought to light as far as Andrew Tate is concerned. Obviously, I have also talked a lot about Andrew Tate, and he was a prevalent figure in my Sneeko video, and so I monitored a lot of Willy's content leading up to that, and I was like, yeah, this guy's doing a fucking solid job. And in general, I do think that WillyMac is a very sincere actor. Like, he, at the very least, believes what he's saying. So when he claims that Willy's a grifter or that he's a liar and all this shit, it's a little bit of a bad faith interpretation, I think, on your part, Mr. Dark Viper. Now, I definitely get a vibe that Willy likes to fuck around, you know what I mean? Sometimes he definitely probably just finds it funny how much you fucking get pissed off, you know what I mean? But I feel like if you guys had a conversation, it wouldn't be as horrendous as you're framing it. But yeah. Anyway, so he basically then goes on to say that WillyMac's take on the whole React content stuff is disappointing, effectively, or that it's like unfair because WillyMac basically just says, I don't give a fuck about this whole debate. Here, I'll play the clip.
Most of what I say about reaction content are, one, he doesn't care.
When it comes to React content being the worst because it's stealing impressions from completely unrelated creators, I don't care.
Any argument that he...
And so yeah, Dark Viper basically uses that as ammo against Willy because he's like, look, this guy he ain't even got any dogs in this fucking fight. You know what I mean? He basically just takes the coward's way out as far as my whole controversial takes go, you know?
This world where he wants every creator to strike every reaction video, people don't want it. Viewers don't want it. Creators don't want it. Something Viper and I agree on is that we don't want a lazy streamer to get sued by a big company and then set a bad precedent for what fair use is. Since nothing really is legally keeping people in line, it's up to the community to self-police for what is and isn't okay. Viper understands this.
It's legal-ish.
Yeah.
Like, they could claim him, they could strike him, but it's legal-ish until it's tested in court. For now.
At the end of the day, even when things are legal, what you want is like social sanctions. Like if you watch Ludwig's video talking about the gambling thing, he said, I don't know if I would take a gambling sponsorship, but it's not because I think it's bad, but because I worry what people will think of me. My audience will be angry at me, potentially. And that kind of stuff is really powerful.
I'm just Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry. I'm just Harry.
Okay, sorry. He also mentions basically that Willy says or claims that Chud Logic was trying to act reasonable with him. And then basically Dark Viper plays a bunch of clips of Chud Logic being like, "You're a fucking loser. You stupid, inbred fucking imbecile.
You belong in the bloody streets of London, bludgeoned by a band of weasels should rip your fucking heart out and eat the fucking liver."
Pretty much what Chud Logic was saying. I think the reason that Willy was calling him reasonable is just because he was kind of like saying, like, you know, this guy has a little bit of a point. What I do is a little bit lecherous. But, you know, from what I can tell, Chud Logic is not a guy who's going to be, like, nice to you if you stomp on his toes. You know what I mean? He's going to call you a loser or whatever. So, yeah, I guess tonally that offended Dark Viper, and it basically made it seem like Chud was just not a reasonable person. There's like a little bit of conflicting, you know, opinions in this, I won't lie. He says in one breath that Willy, he's not intentionally lying, he's just ignorant and didn't know what he was saying was false. But then he'll also say that Willy actively does choose to lie. And so in this video, Dark Viper does not provide actually that many receipts, okay? But he claims that he's basically got like files on top of files on this motherfucker, that he has the ammo to create a big exposed video against Willy. And look, Mr. Dark Viper, do it. Just do it. You've teased it literally like 3 or 4 times in this video, in this 40-minute long video. You saying that you have, you know, receipts, and I understand, this is the weird kind of thing, okay? Dark Viper, he emphasizes many times in this video, I want to destroy this guy, I want to do this, this is like the moral good is for me to point out how much of a fucking, you know, lying, hypocrite, dishonest, bad faith, grifter this guy is. He's a net negative.
What would make me happiest is to spend a month detailing everything perfectly, voicing everything perfectly, a whole expose showing how much he lied and how much he got wrong.
Do it.
Like, I don't have an extra couple of hours in my day to debunk the latest grifter, right?
On one level, I understand that, okay? Because it does take a lot out of you to make a big fucking response video and to, you know, get into your own head. And look, if you fucked up, it might also be like spiritually, you know, challenging to have to confront that in such a literal way, right? So it's possible that might be a dimension Dark Viper's trying to avoid. But the vibe I get is that you want to fucking make a video about WillyMac. And if that's not the case, shut the fuck up and don't talk about it. Because releasing a 40-minute long video, okay, called Exposing WillyMac's Unhinged Year-Long Tantrum About Me, without actually really providing, in my opinion, sufficient evidence of a tantrum or him being necessarily unhinged. Certainly there's some things you could say, like, okay, a little bit shoddy coverage or whatever. Like, I understand that there's certainly something here, but if you're going to poke at some larger ammo that you have, just fucking drop it, okay? Just shut up and release it. Because, in my opinion, mentioning this many times about how you don't have the time to make a big, coherent fucking video,
but as of right now, creators and
it's cowardly, okay? You might not think it's cowardly. You might just be, you know, being honest with how you feel, which is like, I don't want to fucking take the time. He was mentioning how his partner was also basically just like, why are you wasting your fucking time talking to these people who don't want to understand your side of things?
In the same way what I'm doing here, she would look at me and go, what are you doing? They're just gonna lie. They're gonna take this video, or this ramble, and like crop out individual words, make something else out of it, and lie more.
Look, Mr. Dark Viper, I am willing to understand your side of things. I swear, okay? And so just take the time, make the video, or at the very least, give me a call as a sincerely unbiased, to the best of my ability, you know, third party. I think it could be a good avenue for understanding your perspective, okay? Because he emphasizes so many times that WillyMac's original video about him, that it contains so many moments from Dark Viper's career. He basically says, like, Willy's taking videos from like 7 years ago and not, you know, making it clear that they're old clips, and that each of these clips and these moments that he brings up could be its own fucking video of me explaining the context and all this shit, and that my viewers who were there understand. Basically he's saying that WillyMac made a fucking bad faith hit piece against him, and that it would take forever to unpack it, okay? If you're that confident, which you seem very fucking confident in this video, if the confidence is real, just do it. And then you probably will be able to walk away at the very least feeling like you said your piece. Whether it changes really anything in the grand scheme, probably not. Maybe it would though. I don't know. My interactions with Willy lead me to believe that he's more reasonable than you paint him as. And so, yeah. There's also a shot, I believe, at Nicholas Diorio. Effectively just that he's like a dopaminergic Twitter reporter where he'll report stuff that's not necessarily proven. This guy has actually become a total lolcow. Someone told me he was showing off his girlfriend to own the haters, got her doxxed, and then made a video crying about the people who did it. What the f is happening? Basically, Dark Viper claims that this is cap, and Nick Diorio is kind of in a way like reporting it as if it's, you know, real. Thing is, it says right here, someone told me he was showing off his girlfriend. And so it's kind of implied that this is like hearsay, right? But yeah, okay, I could understand how that pisses him off. He goes into a rant basically about how responses don't really work. Here's my question. The big question, Mr. Dark Viper, that I would wonder, okay, about you and WillyMac. Who do you think that WillyMac is grifting for, right? Because when we're talking about grifters, there's an implication that it's like this guy's feeding a horde on behalf of like some larger kind of movement or cause that he's just cynically supporting, right? And so when you say he's a grifter, you just mean that he like doesn't give any shit about telling the truth? Is that is what you mean, right? I would be curious if there's any more specifics you could give about who you think he's grifting for. He makes a couple big claims, like Willy doesn't provide really any evidence for the claims that he makes in his video. He doesn't argue or present evidence. That's a pretty big claim.
This was his revenge. And what does a liar do when they're caught out for lying? They just lie more. Like, I've even got it saved, a snapshot of his Twitter to show that he was just liking all my posts all the fucking time. But that's not anywhere on the internet. Best to make your statements saying it's not true and proving that than going after them. It just creates more hate. What's that expression? A lie said in 5 seconds can take like 20 minutes to debunk. Willy doesn't argue or present evidence for anything he says in this video. It's 40 minutes of direct claims. Each one itself could be a video. They're usually like the bottom of the barrel weirdos, right? The reason why my beef with Charlie was actually significant, and I responded to it immediately, even though I was extraordinarily angry at the time, justifiably, is because those were normal people. No one who is watching videos like this is a normal, functioning human being in society.
That's you fucking loser, dude. This guy just is. I kind of like Dark Viper now, dude. He's saying that you're a fucking bottom of the barrel scum, deplorable piece of garbage kicked into the fucking dirt. That's what you deserve. Dark Viper. Hell yeah, dude. Now he's talking. But yeah, he's basically saying he responded to Moist Critical because his viewers are normal people. Whereas, you know, Willy, other commentators, we have the bottom feeders. You. So, Dark Viper ain't coming into this seeming to want to make friends, but hey man, I'm still here.
Society. Some people lie for their own benefit. Don't waste your time and energy being upset at unreasonable people. It ain't worth it. But it's just gonna keep happening. I like doing good in the world, chat. And I feel like to some degree...
This is I love this take. It's actually awesome.
I've stopped doing that because it just takes too much effort and I'm so busy with my work. Surely there is some value in showing that WillyMacShow is a liar who does not care what is true. Like, surely. Like, there are gonna be people in the future that he will also lie about that I can go, hey, look... Or other people can point to my video, hey look, WillyMacShow lied before, he's probably lying again. Surely there's value there, right? I would tell you I was a fan of WillyMacShow until I saw him lying fervently about you. There is some you would...
It's wild to me because Dark Viper, and look, I do not know you very well. I'm not super well acquainted with your content. I have watched some of your videos, okay? But most of, like, I really haven't consumed that much, okay, I swear. And I have watched your videos that are gaming related, right? But I do get the vibe that he is somebody who is, his world is his YouTube channel, okay? And he literally admits that. And he has a quote that I was actually kind of concerned by. But he basically says exactly what I'm fucking describing right ahead here.
More nuanced comments saying this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong.
Yeah, so he basically looks for comments on WillyMac's video that support him.
But they're just comments from one person. And as I showed before, there is information that I have that utterly destroys Willy that most people have not seen. But this...
Just Can drop it, bro.
This is ultimately a random quit on the internet who's lying for ad revenue. I just feel...
Okay, here's the thing. As far as I'm aware, and as far... Look, I'm more well acquainted with the commentary community than you are, Mr. Dark Viper. WillyMac, as far as commentators go, is upper echelon for sure, okay? So, if you can utterly destroy him, you should do it. If he deserves it, then you would be improving the landscape in which I occupy. You'd be doing me a favor. You'd be holding us to a higher standard. Because, at least in my opinion, there is, at the very least, a kind of a trial by fire that commentators usually have to endure, and responding to the criticism from another creator, that does affect your credibility, your reputation, all this shit. So, do it. It will be heard. I'll fucking watch it, okay?
Feel like I've changed so much as a person, trying to not care about the wider world outside of myself.
I've changed so much as a person, trying to not care about the wider world outside of myself. So this is what I was saying is kind of concerning. It's basically saying that he's closing off, you know, the amount that he tunes in to external voices, critics or, you know, harassers or whatever. And yeah, I understand that for some people, like, this might be important for their mental health or whatever, because they just can't, like, handle, you know, having this fucking yapping critics in their ear and all this shit. I understand that. It's especially if this is your entire world, as he does admit, basically, that this is, that he can't separate his personal life, his, you know, himself from his, you know, character or whatever, Dark Viper, like that they are the same person.
There is no separation between DarkViperAU and Matthew Judge. They're one and the same to me. So I can't just look at it and go, lol, thousands of people have been misled about DarkViperAU, but me, Matthew Judge, who cares? Because I put so much of me personally into my work.
I can understand how you would get to the point where basically it's tough to tune it out to the point where you have to basically just ignore it all. That makes it a lot easier for you to remain nice and cozy in your little bubble and protect yourself from external unhappy vibes and thoughts. And it can contribute a little bit to narcissism, right? You float around in the community where you usually go unchecked. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, if you think that the criticism is unwarranted, absolutely. Say your piece, but tuning out the world entirely, I don't think is the move, personally, but yeah.
It's a video about you, you're allowed to dress it. If dressing it makes you happy, then there is value in it. But doing other things will make me even more happy. It's
That's facts. That's facts. Look, responding to drama sucks, okay? But, yeah, I mean, you said it yourself. If you're gonna make a video like this, you should just drop that nuke, bro.
What would make me happiest is to spend a month detailing everything perfectly, voicing everything perfectly, a whole expose showing how much he lied and how much he got wrong. And every day, Aitana would look at me and go, what the f is wrong with you? As
that's his partner.
She has said before, why are you giving any of these people any time of day? They are obviously dumb. You know they're dumb. You know they're dishonest. You know they're lying.
Hey man, I'm not dishonest. I might be dumb, but I'm not a dishonest lying person, so you know.
Why does it matter? And it keeps coming back to it. I do not like liars. I do not like cheaters. I do not like those who perpetuate injustice. And I think taking the attitude...
This guy is very, very, very self-righteous. And on one hand, I respect it, but it's also like the stakes are not as high as he makes them sound. You know what I mean? I don't know.
That I am, which is just, oh well, nothing you can do about it, I think is what ultimately makes the world a worse place. The reason why the WillyMacShows can get some foothold in the world is because people like me do nothing. Evil wins when good people do nothing.
This is so ideological in such a strange way. Like, you're already framing offhandedly WillyMac and people like him as an evil. Sir, you should not be moralizing this as much as you are, in my opinion. That's my opinion. But let's see. He's literally framing himself as a crusader for good.
As any of you have probably come to understand, being a good person takes a lot more effort than being a bad person. A person indifferent to the truth, indifferent to how what they're doing can negatively impact other people, can do 1,000 things in a day, while a good person sitting there wondering about the implications of their next action. It just sucks. It's the worst aspect of life, in that it has so many other negative ramifications that leads to all the other bad things in life.
Wait for the inevitable internet anarchist video. He is a big enough creator that making a video in response to him and piling in all the other grifters can be justified from a business perspective.
Right, that's his editor giving him some advice. I don't know, I guess you could say that's sound advice, but look, bro, if you're gonna upload a clip about Willy Mac, just drop that video.
Being like, this was included because X, Y, and Z grifter said these false things before. It's always important to remember, guys, that
just do it directly. He's basically talking about how he might just do like kind of a vague video about all of his past controversies. I don't know, I think using the canvas of a specific person who has critiqued you or whatever, or made a hit piece on you, I think that's a better way to handle it, because you can direct some vitriol toward Willy, you know what I mean? Hold him accountable by his own audience or whatever.
From it, and treat it like it's a game or something, then...
So he's talking about why, like, he wishes that he could just ignore this, like, in good conscience, you know what I mean? So that he didn't have to deal with his shit, because if he just didn't respond, almost none of this would have happened, right?
Obviously you're gonna be better off, but I've never been that way. There is no separation between DarkViperAU and Matthew Judge. They're one and the same to me. So I can't just look at it and go, lol, thousands of people have been misled about DarkViperAU, but me, Matthew Judge, who cares? Because I put so much of me personally into my work.
And so yeah, that's basically him talking about how he takes this stuff so seriously because it is about him. It is effectively, especially when you criticize him, or when you, in his words, when you lie about him, you are lying about him as a person, not just like this internet character that's not real. It's like his entire livelihood. It's his, in a way, it sounds like it's his reason for living. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of critiques that could be kind of, I guess you could say, elucidated from that, right? Like, this is not necessarily a healthy way to live. Again, I was describing how Dark Viper now travels a lot, which is good. It seems like he's living his life. I'm sure his life is fulfilling, but it seems like when he's traveling, he still uses that basically as an excuse to make content for his Instagram, further contributing to him being terminally online, right? Making everything about work. The association, not having the personal life and the public life separated. Personally, I would advocate for a separation, okay? I don't think that it is a good thing that content creators who succeed at the highest level are usually the ones who are the most terminally online, whose lives are entirely documented. Okay, I don't think this is healthy, but yes, it is, like, it often contributes to success. That makes perfect sense. A lot of the times, the most popular people, the ones with the most influence, the most output, these people are terminally online. And believe me when I say that really does not make their takes, their opinions, their personalities better off, in my opinion. But, you know, having a life outside of YouTube, right, it is not feeding the machine, right? It's not necessarily advantageous, but finding a way to actually have that balance, right? Like, I don't know, for me at least, I interlinked, okay, my, you know, real, like, who I am with my YouTube kind of persona or whatever. I interlinked those the very most when my life was the shittest, basically, when I had the least going for me, right? And so, I don't know, I feel like semi-recently I've finally gotten to the point where it's like, I genuinely don't want to take, you know, pictures of what I'm doing. I genuinely don't feel a need to record my personal life. I do feel like I'm developing a separation, but that obviously does not help, like, my career or whatever, right? So, you know, I'm still kind of figuring that part out, of course. But, yeah, I don't know. It's a balance, I do think, that needs to be established, and in the case of Dark Viper, there's certainly, it seems like, some refining that could be done. But yeah, I'd be more than happy to talk if you'd be willing. So, yourself, Willy Mac, God bless. If you guys are watching, please hit me up, okay? Thank you for watching.